Hi, this is Aaron from Missing Remote, and today we're going to take a look at the Fractal Design Define R4. The Define R4 is a full-size ATX chassis. It's quite similar to their previous generation, the Define R3, except there's some improvements that you would expect. It's a steel chassis, very refined, elegant looking are good words to describe it. Not too garish, so depending on your taste, you may or may not be looking for that. However, I think most people would tend to like this either for a nice workstation, server, gaming PC that you just want to have a classy look to. So starting with the front, we have a panel that opens. Very nice hinges on it. There's no creaking or anything of that nature. There's a magnetic closure system. Some foam padding inside for sound dampening. Two 5 1/4 inch spots. And here we have an area for the fan. Two fans actually, 140 millimeter fans. That's an upgrade from the previous generation that used 120 millimeter. One of the bugaboos that some people had with the previous R3 chassis was that the fan filters were actually held in each by 4 screws, so that could have been a bit of a pain if you were looking to take those out. Here you can see they've made this a completely toolless exposure to the fans. There's a filter here that you can just slide up like that. If you just want to take out the filter for some cleaning. You can also see that I've installed an additional fan here. Fractal Design includes one fan as an inlet fan. There's also another outlet fan that they give you. I've gone ahead and installed a second here just so you can see how that fits in there. And that just fits right back in there like that. So that's the front. One other thing I should point out here is the fan controller. So the integrated fan controller is a 3-switch 5, 7, and 12 volt switch. The previous generation had an analog switch that was on the back of the chassis. So this is kind of a nice convenience feature that the Fractal added. And I'm turning around to the side here. Chassis is quite solid. This panel here alone has a very heavy-duty feel to it. You can see that it's got some sound dampening material. It also has a space here for 140 millimeter or 120 millimeter fan. If you pull this out, of course you lose some of the sound dampening, but you can put the fan in there. They've done the same thing up on the top. There's two 140 millimeter openings up on the top as well. And you can also put another 140 millimeter fan down here on the bottom, or 120 millimeter as well. So you can see that we have our hard drive enclosure. There's 8 hard drives that can fit 2.5 inch or 3.5 inch. They've made a nice improvement to the drive cage, which just unscrews here, similar to the old design, with a couple thumb screws. Pull this out. So you can actually rotate this 90 degrees, and now you have a better airflow situation because you have less air resistance due to this metal enclosure. Or you can just remove it altogether, of course, if you're not using these. You have your caddies, which have a silicone rubber type of grommet on there for sound dampening. Slide very smoothly into the caddy. And you can see there's quite a bit of room. This is a GTX 560 Ti, which is a mid-length type of card. It's not too hugely powerful of a card, but you could put a very powerful card that extends into the area of the drive cage and remove, and that would be one reason to remove that drive cage is if you had a use case like that. You can see you can fit at least a couple big graphics cards in here. So CPU cooler is a Sky Mugen 2. It's quite a big cooler, although not the biggest, but there's still a lot of room in here for an even bigger cooler. And you can even fit radiators up here on the top if you have a water cooling type of situation. The power supply on the bottom has a fan inlet, so depending on your type of power supply, if it has a fan mounted on the bottom of it, you can draw air, cool air in from the top. And there's also a fan filter here. This is very much the same as the original Define series. So if we turn around to the back, before I do that, I'll also point out this is the 140 millimeter fan that Fractal Design also includes with the Define R4. So there's a total of 2. There's the back. You can see you have your full ATX set of expansion ports, and there's an additional one here which used to be occupied by the old fan controller if you used it. Now you can put, maybe if your motherboard has some USB expansion capability, you can put that there. Moving around to the side here, on the rear, we can make note of some other improvements. Fractal Designs actually included some additional space here for cable management. This happens to be a 750 watt non-modular power supply, which I like to use for reviewing because it has a ton of cables to have to deal with. And you can see it's actually pretty clean for this type of setup. And most of the cabling is just fitting here with a few that I've also stuffed underneath the first drive bay. So there was really no problem at all with this. You can also see that on the back here there's a nice large opening for the CPU cooler, so you can mount it and dismount it without taking the motherboard off of the unit. One thing I noticed that was really nice about the Define R4 was similar to the previous Define generation. There's the rubber cable management grommets here, but these ones seem to really stick in there and stay and not sort of move around, which is really nice because it was kind of a pain to have to fit those back in there. So if we just move up to the top and we'll just be done. Move the camera here for you to see. So on the top here we have our power switch. There's a LED here. It actually glows around the entire ring. 2 USB 3.0 ports, 2 USB 2.0 ports. There's a reset switch, headphone, and microphone. Switch feels really nice, and you know, just has a very polished feel to it. So really that's about all I got to show you for the Define R4. Come to Missing Remote, read the rest of the review, and you can get all the specs on it, and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Bye.